And only TV9.
This week, the sporting world's attention is focusing on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But Central New York has its own brand of high-powered racing on a circular track that for some has led straight to Indy. With part one of a two-part report, here is tonight's Bud's Journal.
This is the front chute of Oswego Speedway, home to a form of racing which is stronger here in Central New York than any other place in the country. On Friday night's Journal, we'll take a look at the high-powered machinery and the men who race here. But tonight, an overall view of the phenomenon known as super modified racing. Oswego consists of two banked corners connected by two short straights. And at super modified speeds, it becomes one long left turn, really. So what is a super modified? This is a tubular-framed gumball-tired beast, 1,800 pounds of high-powered fury. And in New York, Oswego is its lair. You've raced, I'm sure, many, many tracks.
All over the country.
What do you think of the Oswego Speedway?
The best.
They bring a lot of money into the community. A lot of merchants appreciate the racetrack. They sponsor the race nights here. It's a good overall relationship is real good.
Compared to other types of racing, supermods are relatively cheap, but in real terms, they're still enormously costly. So you see a lot of backyard engineering. When Mike Rizzo needed a transporter, he took an old school bus and a saber saw and brought the two together.
We cook, eat, sleep. There's a homemade wood-burning stove inside the bus. You know, like I say, we travel. We go all over the place with it.
Most of the competitors are homegrown, too. They used to come from as far away as the Midwest, but the energy shortage put the kibosh on that. And the sport tends to run in families.
Years ago, my dad used to drive here, and it's just, you know, it's like in the backyard, you might say.
On the track, it's every man for himself. In the pits, it's a fraternity. When someone has a problem, someone else will be there with spare parts or advice.
Yeah, but it should topple, right?
I don't know. Megs do funny things.
The camaraderie was never more apparent than the time Mike Rizzo and Jamie Moore went into the final race, battling for 7th in the standings.
Last race of the season, the last point race we had, Jamie had blew a motor, and Jamie would have virtually fell out of the top 10 by not being here. So I decided to loan him my backup motor. And we went racing that night, and I had a bad night of racing. I got into the wall, and Lord behold, my motor passed me in points. I wound up 8th, Jamie wound up 7th, but we all went away happy, you know.
Gordon Johncock is just one famous name who found his way to Indy by way of Oswego. And lots of these guys dream of following the same road. More on Friday's Journal.
It's an exciting sport. Has quite a following, too, I understand.
It really does. They get 4,000 or 5,000 every Saturday night. You know what impressed me? Not so much the cars, but the drivers and all the people on the crews. They're really a great bunch of folks. We'll meet them in more detail on Friday night.
Indy 500 are the cream of the motor racing crop. And just as Major League ball teams draw players from the farm clubs, professional drivers begin careers on hundreds of small tracks across the nation. One such speedway resides here in Central New York. It's the subject of tonight's Journal.
That's the vantage point for the 5,000 racing fans who visit Oswego Speedway every Saturday night during the summer. A select few, though, view the track from right down there, behind 800 horses at 140 miles an hour. 30 years ago, horses of the four-legged variety ran here. Then the track was lengthened to 5/8 of a mile. It was paved, and it became the New York haven for the super modified. For racing fans, all the ingredients are there. Speed, wheel-to-wheel competition, noise, and local heroes.
I live right here in town, a few blocks from the Speedway, so racing was a part of my life, really.
This is a sport with few professionals. Subtract a season's expenses from a season's winnings, and there's usually not much left. So they do it for reasons other than money. What is it that draws you to this sport?
Speed, excitement.
Well, the competition is the main thing, really. I love it. That's why.
I like speed.
To control costs, the cars are kept relatively simple. They have no transmissions, just single-speed direct drive. Airfoils and ground effects are banned. Despite their simplicity, supermods are terrifically fast because of, in a word, horsepower. Vast amounts of the stuff from alcohol-burning engines. And even though the machines are brutal, the races are family affairs, both in the stands and on the track. Ron Wallace has raced for 28 years, and he's about to turn over the wheel to his son.
I was about 5 years old, and I started working out with him, learning, trying to, you know, learn the trade of the racing, so.
Has it gotten in your blood?
Oh, I love it. It's right in my blood, yeah.
Next to crashes, mechanical failure is the greatest financial burden to the weekend racers. At this practice session, Mike Rizzo stood on the power at the starting line and coasted to a stop. The villain, a through shaft, twisted apart by the power.
Now, the game is basically heartbreak. There's so many components here that you have to depend on to get the car to the end. And if something minor, say like this is a minor, like an $80 part, which is to most people in racing a cup of coffee.
Steer the conversation to hopes and dreams, and one word is heard again and again. Do you watch the Indy 500 and wish you were there?
I videotaped the Indy 500 and wish I was there. And I would just love to be sitting in one of those Indianapolis cars come May 30th.
It's happened just that way for the talented and lucky few. Gordon Johncock and Tim Richmond once drove Oswego. On Sunday, they'll be driving a track known as the Brickyard in the Indy 500. And that's tonight's Journal.